start by thanking all of you. We are already in a partnership with you guys to help us clean homes. And as you saw in the image of Lisa with the blurred out U-Haul truck in the back, we all knew which truck it was. It's fine. And you already provide this big kit for us to come in and clean the homes. And the reason that that is so important is because we have to start with a very baseline. We have to come in and clean before anything gets moved in to give people a sense of home and a sense of starting over. So before we ever met you guys, this was is basically our mission vision. So we turn empty houses for the recently homeless into clean, dignified, and welcoming homes so families can begin again. I think it's kind of eerie about your mission and your vision and how ours line up in such a real way, because it's not just furniture, is it? It's a baseline of where to springboard off of and how to move forward, and how all of that starts with a clean home, right? Something you can be proud of. So people always ask me how I got started. This lovely lady is responsible for me getting started. Her name is Krista, and what happened was I moved from Miami to Detroit in 2008, and I volunteered for a nonprofit who rescued food. And so what I did for them was a little bit of graphic design. That's my background in advertising. And I would go out for coffee every day with the woman who ran the front desk. This is Krista. She had 2 kids, close to my kid's age. And one day we're chatting away, and I'm doing a lot of the talking, which is normal, but I was doing a little bit more than normal. And she said to me, you know, I'm sorry I'm not talking a lot. I'm really exhausted. I checked into the homeless shelter last night, and we didn't get a lot of sleep. And I could literally feel my world flipping upside down. I lost my bearings for a second, and like Rita said, I had to take a minute to right myself. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, well, my rent was raised by $25, and I was on such a thin budget on a razor that we couldn't afford it. I tried to talk to my landlord, and I had to leave last night with nothing. We took nothing with us but our 2 suitcases. That's all we could carry. She had no transportation. So that broke my heart. And I tried to picture all of the things that she had gathered her whole life, all of her family photographs, all the things that she had taken with her from vacations or family mementos that she had to leave behind that the landlord was currently moving out onto the corner for the trash man to take away. And that broke my heart. So finally, Krista tells me about 2 weeks later that she was approved for housing and she got into a house, and Rob and I were so excited for her, and I drove over to her house to witness her joy with her and her 2 kids. And I walked in, I'm not sure what I was expecting, but this is what I saw. This is what she was able to gather from either the trash or friends or family or from the shelter that they were sleeping on. And again, like, my heart broke into a million pieces. Knowing how much excess I had in my own life, and how much excess my neighbors had, and how much excess the kids at my school pickup had, I, instead of going home and crying, I went home and turned my empathy into action and started gathering all this stuff with a truck that was way too big for us. This is me and my friend Anna, looking all badassery, and our old logo, and we just slapped a magnet on the car and drove around and picked up all this stuff for our friend and drove it down to her house. That was what our goal was, to just fill her house with love and dignity, because she was my friend. And so if she wanted a brown couch, I was going to find a brown couch. And if she wanted a red dining room, we were going to find a red dining room. So we drove around. It took us about 6 weeks. And this was her house after we left. And we really wanted to provide something dignified for her, and something that she could be proud of, something she could have friends over to, something that she knew that this was her house for a very long time. It wasn't temporary, that she could really build from there. I'm happy to say that Krista, 11 years later, is still in that same house. She has now moved up the ranks at Forgotten Harvest, and now holds she's assistant to the VP there, and she's just a really special person. She sat on our board for a long time. So we were done. We were finished. Yay, we did it. Look at me, I'm great. And then the furniture kept coming because I was known as the furniture lady in town for some odd reason. That was not my purpose. And then I came home one day and there was a Natutsi couch, sectional couch on my front lawn. I don't know how they got it over. I have a little white picket fence. I don't know how they got it over onto the, but they did. And I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck am I going to do with this? And then I turned into my garage and there was a crib with crib bedding somebody had wheeled into my garage. So I decided to put everything into storage until I could figure out what we were going to do with it. So this was after week 4. And my garage was full, my friend's garage was full, and then we had 3 of these. This wasn't the word I used, but it started with the same letter. So I started calling around, and I said to shelters, okay, I don't want this stuff to be resold because it was given to me in good faith that it was going to go to a family in need. The family doesn't need it anymore, but there's got to be other families that you know that need this stuff. I don't want it to be resold, and I don't want the family who needs it to be responsible for getting it, gathering it, and moving it to their place because my friend didn't have a car. Getting a dresser on a bus was akin to learning how to fly, so I don't know how she was going to do that. So they said, wow, that's a really big hole in our system. Would you start that? That was call number 1. I was like, ha, graphic design, advertising. Second call, same thing. Wow, we have to work really hard as social workers to do GoFundMes to get a bed for our clients. Could you start that? Quick. 9 phone calls later in Detroit, I finally figured out that this was supposed to be what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, which is a weird feeling, right? But I started small. We started with 1 house every 6 weeks. I don't even know what the next slide is. Okay, so we started small, 1 house every 6 weeks. We worked up to a small warehouse space, a larger warehouse space, an event that we held. At the beginning, we were doing, I don't know, maybe 10 to 20 houses per year. At the 1-year mark, we had over 100 people on our waiting list. And I went home and cried into my pillow, which I've done a lot of times since, but for other reasons. So I went home and cried into my pillow because I knew that was 400 people that I knew of that I couldn't help. So my husband and I made a decision that this was going to be our legacy. This is what we were going to be leaving behind the world. And we decided to invest like we would in a small company and grow this and make it a legitimate nonprofit. So we were open for a few years. We were running at a clip of like a house a week now, and I'm getting my hands on lots of people, and we're hugging, and we're feeling great about it. And somebody asked me a question at one of these kind of speaking engagements that I couldn't answer, which was, well, so what happens? Is this just a Band-Aid? Are you guys just making people feel good? What happens later on? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess we should track and go back and see where our families are now. So we went back and we interviewed all of the families that we had helped to that point, and we still do this. We're now expanding our statistics, but here's what we found. So, that's not right. We're up to 1,250 around, a little over 1,200 families. And that number's a little bit closer to 6,000 at this point. And it costs us around $3,000 to furnish each home. That includes all of our employees, all of our insurance, all of our overhead. And so when we went back, and the first thing that we asked when we went back is, are you in the same home with the same furniture? And so only 1% of our 1,200 plus families have gone back into homelessness over the last close to almost 11 years. If you go to the national average for HUD, it hovers around 50%. So once we found that out and started working with that number, we're like, that can't be true. That can't be right. And then we started going back and asking again, and going to other cities and asking again. And this number is consistent. It's lower in San Diego, but this number is consistent through all of our cities. And HUD continues to publish the 50% number year after year after year of families that work hard to get into houses go back into homelessness after 12 months. Thank you. So people ask us why. This is Lisa. People ask us why this, why you? And I think that you have a unique insight into why, because you do a lot of the same things, are working for the same purpose that we are, which is a new beginning, right? A clean new beginning makes a huge difference to a family, but also the personal aspect, the humanity of it. So rather than just giving furniture to people, we sit down on the floor and we ask them, What do you like? What has your year been like? So, are you into sports? Are you into superheroes? What colors do you like? And a lot of our families for this moment is more important than the furniture, believe it or not. Because nobody has connected on a human level. They've been asked their social security number. They've been asked what government subsidies they're on. They've been asked all these questions that are meant to demoralize and demean them and put them into as a number. And we don't ask any of those questions. All we start with is like, who are you as a person and how can we help? So here's Lisa sitting down with the kids and talking about their dreams and what they envision for their home. Then we go back to our warehouse and we craft, which you guys have done here today, and we frame their photographs and we make it as personal as possible and pick out things that are just right for the family. And the reason that we do that is because when somebody walks into their house, we want them to know right away that this is their home. This belongs to them, this will always belong to them, and we've thought about them and put effort and kindness behind what we're doing. So the reason that you've made everybody's names is because it's very important to us to put the names of the children above their bed. For a child who hasn't had a safe space, maybe ever, this is our way of telling them this is your space, this belongs to you, and this is your safe space where you can climb into bed. A lot of our kids will not play with their toys. Although we provide a ton of toys, which we will as well today, they climb into their bed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because most of our children have never had a bed of their own, and it's really important. So this little girl, I always like to focus on her. When you have things in your life that you feel are worthless, that you give away, just know that they mean everything to somebody else. And there are some things in your life that you want to give away that you're attached to, like a baby's crib. And it's really hard to go into a hole and have it being resold somewhere. But know that if you ever give to a place like Humble Design or Humble Design, it will go directly to a family that needs it and that who honors it. This is just how we begin. We start on the floor and ask stories and ask for whatever they're willing to share. A lot of our families are really eager to share because they want to tell their story. Today, this lovely mom is so eager to share her story. There's no embarrassment or shame that goes along with it. What she wants to say is, I'm a survivor and I've pulled through and I've protected my children and I'm proud of where I am. We always start the conversation with, we're here because you've earned this. You've worked hard. You have made all the right moves. You've got into housing. You're sustainably housed. Now we're going to take you the extra step, the extra mile to make sure that you're comfortable, warm, and safe. So, when people ask me, so this seems like fluff, you know, what is the science behind this? I like to always point to this quote, which is, in the history of the world, no one has ever washed a rented vehicle. Now, I always have 2 or 3 people who raise their hand like, I washed a rented vehicle. No, you didn't. You had it for more than 3 months. So there is a purpose and a pride of ownership. If you take ownership of your education and you had to pay for it and you had to put your way through college, there's a certain amount of ownership there. And statistically, there are way more people who graduate when they put themselves through college than when if they're offered to by their parents. Also, if you have somebody who takes ownership of their car, of their home, they're way more likely to stay there, even if it's a rented space, if they feel some sort of ownership and pride and connection. So our families, anecdotally, will say to us, well, I've been in a domestic violence relationship for 15 years. I got up enough courage to move out 3 times. The first time and the second time, the abuser came back around and the kids were like, we're sleeping on the floor. The abuser had the beds, the gaming console, the TV, all the things that made a house into their home, and they felt pressure to go back into the cycle. This time stuck because the kids were like, we're good, we're fine, we can stay out, we can make it this time. And so anecdotally, that's what we find. Also, when something breaks in the house, the sink breaks in the kitchen, and the mom says, well, I'm going to call the landlord and have them fix it and come by. I'm not going to stop paying rent. I'm not going to go into the cycle of just going into transitional housing again and again. This is my permanent housing now. So hopefully, we've had an article written on us in Fast Company, which you can read, that goes into the psychology way deeper about why this program works as opposed to other furniture programs and why it's all about creating a sense of ownership and dignity. So we have that wonderful moment, which a lot of you will get to experience today, where the family comes home. And then we have that minute and a half of just like hysterical, gross, ugly crying. And you'll see me. You'll see me today when I show you a video. It's going to happen again. So, and it's a great story to tell, right? You see so many stories about homelessness that's so depressing, hepatitis, intense cities, and all this stuff, where you're just like, it's hopeless. And this is a way to say, this is helping. This is keeping families out of homeless shelters and opening up beds for other people who might need it. And so people paid attention in a real way locally when we first started. Keep scrolling through here. And then we had some national coverage. We had the Today Show. And then most recently, we've created 26 episodes of a TV show where you can walk all the way through the process with us. It's on the CW on Saturday mornings. It's called Welcome Home. And I believe we are on our 17th episode right now. And it's at 8:30 in the morning, so I would suggest you DVR it because nobody's up at 8:30 in the morning Saturday. We've gotten the word out about what empathy means and what the face of homelessness actually looks like in the United States. I'm going to play you a video right now of one of a family that stands out to us. And I was mentioning to you about what happens when a child sees their bed for the first time. This is a child who had never had that space or a bed, and over Christmas we were able to give him
the image of a bully.
Is that exciting? I'm wondering what all the stuff is under here. And here's your dining room.
It's a table.
Yeah. You want to close your eyes? I'll tell you when to open them, okay? Okay. Close your eyes.
I can't see anything.
All right, go ahead and open them.
Oh my gosh.
What do you think?
Oh
Sweetie, it's all for you. Do you like it? Oh, it's okay.
Look, you see that little bed? I'm crying. It's a little overwhelming.
And up here, there's a little step stool. You can climb up there and read some books up there. And there's a little desk in the...
Look, you got some.
I think you like it. I think that's what it means, huh? Merry Christmas.